Hi, folks. This is Don Meisner with the North Country Fishing Report. You know, one of the things that I think has been taking place, and maybe it's been an evolutionary process, but it seems to be that fishing, we building our reputation up here as fishing has almost spurred on another cottage industry. Let me tell you what I'm talking about. I was in one of our stores the other day, and as I walked in, and it actually wasn't it wasn't like a fishing tackle store. It was a dollar store. And I went in there to get some toothpaste and stuff for a trip that I was going to make. And as I walked in the door, I saw this guy, and he looked over and he saw me, and he stopped immediately. And I thought, okay, he must recognize me, because he just stopped his whole process. And he came up to me, and he started telling me about the things that he'd been doing. And it became fascinating to me, because this sort of represented everything that has been happening here in a way that most of us probably aren't even aware of. And what he wanted to show me was pictures of the lures that he was now making. Now, he never made lures before, and he said what has happened is that when COVID hit, and we've talked about this before, it changed all of our lives in so many different ways. And so he could no longer do so many of the things that he once did. None of us could. And so he turned to what he thought would be enjoyable, give him some kind of peace in a time of such extraordinary stress. And he started painting lures. But first of all, he had to find how to get the lures to paint. And there's been industries that have been built up by this. And he was able to find a place that sold just the hard plastic beginning of these lures. And I said to him, did you ever paint before? He said, no. And he started showing me the beautiful lures that he made. And I'm like, wow. And part of it, he said, is because paints, and there's so much more available now than there once was, that makes this possible. But he kept downing what he was saying, like, oh, this isn't all that good. You should see, he says, there's a young guy in Waddington that's making musky lures. And he's making those out of wood. And he said, oh, my gosh, are they beautiful. And then he started showing me pictures of these lures. And he told me of other people that were starting to do the same thing. And he said, those that aren't doing this, there's a lot of people now making their own shotgun shells. So it does a number of things. Number one, for 3 years, we couldn't even get so many of the things that we normally were used to getting. You go into a store and you couldn't even get lures like you once did. The shelves were empty. And so that spurred this on. But also the fact that it gave people a new sense of being, I think, to be able to use what we have here, the inspiration of living in an area with wonderful fishing and hunting, and being able to sort of cater your life to that in a way that you never were able to do before. And there's one final thing about this that I thought was so fabulous. He said, my daughter's got involved, and she loves to fish frogs, but she made me enter into a pact with her that no longer would I ever go out and get frogs and eat frogs' legs. We were not going to kill them anymore. And he said, I agreed to this contract between her and me. But in turn, he was going to start making hard plastic frogs for her and have her come up with ways to paint them and ideas of colors and so forth. I think this is fabulous. And this is one of the things that has happened because life is always changing. And one of the worst things that's ever happened to our country, at least we can make good out of it in some ways. And this is one of the ways that we're doing that. Until next time, folks, this is Don Meisner with the North Country Fishing Report.